Hello everyone, this is Flosscat, and welcome to finally the video I've been meaning to do for the last, couple of weeks now, which is finally looking into rent cycles to recent videos, or kind of recent videos of the two, things he has been done, and kind to do an explanation on both of them. So, a couple of things before we get started. Number one, if you do not know who Ren Cycle is or his videos, I highly actually recommend you go watch him. Like, even without the videos we'll be just discussing, which is his Caillou and Max and Ruby series, instead, I recommend watch all of his videos. He's a pretty good YouTuber. He does pretty funny, awesome videos. And of course, I do want to clarify, he's one of the best YouTube poop makers out there because he, along with a few others I can like compare, like Glider and what you call it, look on one more. I remember it. Well, the other one does make regular ones, but those two makes don't just make YouTube poops. They actually make stories out of their YouTube poops. And really, I think Run Cycle can even beat S Glider in spades with that because of how he's turning it into kind of a ARG like fiasco. Which leads into the second thing. Because it's been a while, don't worry, I still remember a bunch of stuff. In fact, I got a lot to show in this video too. But because of that, I will not actually go over. I will make a brief summary on both series, what we know so far, and I will kind of forget what happened in the previous thing. I will send a link down below to my video I did all the way back to, I don't remember how many years, but I will be doing that to showcase what I missed. And is it pretty much, but I will do a summary on what I do remember and what happens in the video. We're just going to be focused truly on the newest video they released, because the both series has released a brand new video each, and he's also going to do it in a pattern sort of way. He's going to do the Caillou first, and then the Max and Ruby next, because that's how it goes back and forth. And of course, finally, I do want to apologize for this being late. I mean, obviously, I made a promise, and I am going to still keep it. I mean, I'm obviously keeping it, but I made a promise to do this much sooner, but I forgot to do it. Mostly because, as you guys can tell, this is actually going to be our very first crew video where I do a dive in my new apartment, as you can see, which is, pretty nice. Got like my bookshelf here. I can now sit down, and I'm not gonna use the TV now, but I might do it in the future while looking into stuff. But for now, we're just gonna go to the fashion switch here. But anyways, because of that, this will be very, interesting in some way. But you know, I do want to apologize for being late, especially to Rent Cycle, because congrats for him reaching, I forgot his milestone. I think it was 3,000. I mean, not 3,000. 30,000 subscribers. He reached a milestone, of course, and I forgot. So now we're going to go ahead and finally look into his series. And like I said, we'll recap what we know so far. So first off, we'll start with the Caillou one, of course, which out of the two is a bit more confusing, obviously, because he has a lot of lore going on to it. Like, the last thing you expect is, even without the YouTube poop, the fact that there is a freaking Caillou ARG like this. I mean, I give him props for that, because really, it is pretty funny. But to recap what we know so far of the Caillou thing, I'll go ahead and play this while we talk. Hopefully no ad shows up. Pretty much, for those who don't know, there's been this weird thing involving a scientist, which I'm going to call her a scientist, Caillou and this creature that's a clone of him that has a big fat mouth. And as you can see, by the way, this happened last time, but it's not really a pre-sync as we first saw, and that's the clone, by the way, right over there. But as you may have noticed, both this uh this previous scene and the next one we'll talk about is actually like it definitely shows he has evolved with his craft in this thing. Sorry, I'm blubbering like, but you get my grip, you get what I'm saying. Anyways, to continue on and what I mean. Hey, sorry about that. I gotta make sure my train of thought is working. But anyways, pretty much this explains a little bit of what happened in the previous thing. And of course, as we know, towards the end of this point of the video, yeah, the Caillou monster does die, and it actually is clarified that this is a death. That means because after this whole action scene, which I won't spoil because it's super funny, and of course, I'm trying to make sure this video don't get too crazy, if you know what I mean. Um, the the Caillou monster, the big one that we see at the end of last video, does die in a very interesting way, and then they do rescue the original Caillou from a very creepy hole that matches the mouth of the creature. And of course, we do know that afterwards they confirm that, yeah, they're not joking. The mother and the little girl did die, and they even jokingly said the father was going to build a grave, even if it was a tin can. Nothing much else happens really in the first part. It's honestly the goofball jokes. The only major thing that I'll point out quickly is this scene.
You have to help us find our way to Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove? Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove? Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove? Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove.
Now, if you missed it, that's because the scientist lady is literally right in the weird other map thing involving weirdly versions of mermaids with noses and God knows what, which actually might be a foreshadowing of what we do learn about this woman, but we do know that she appears in this thing. So there must be some connection to this as well. Though what? I don't know. I just feel like this is more so this shows the fact that she's still there even without it. Like also the situation is still grim kind of thing. I just really think this is more of a joke thing. But it is close enough to worth interest and note. Also, to quickly worth noting, the only other big thing I will point out is the joke they use for the grandpa, which is the fact that he had dementia, which, yeah, it's just a goofball joke, but it does kind of play in the story a little bit, but it's not too much, to say the least. But it is kind of funny, to say the least, of how they showcased it. Anyways, the real kicker that happens, which I'll showcase now, is that what happens towards the end. And of course, as you soon see, boom, the lady kills him off, which is like the most graphic thing you expect. When I said this YouTube poop gets crazy, I do mean it. Like, yikes. But anyways, the thing is, we learn a bit more, and for starters, we learned that there was a clone also in the house that the grandpa was supposed to babysit. But as we see, he goes into this weird dimension thing thanks to the eye chart. And we also see, as you saw earlier, the owl is still there as a sign for the eye chart. Then, of course, we get this very intense scene, which I'll actually go ahead and let it play out while we talk. But let's just say it gets both funny, but also kind of interesting. Yeah, so it turns out, if I had to guess what we saw just then, which is definitely a lot in there, apparently the scientists, which I still am going to call scientists, I don't care what you guys say, because honestly, I feel like it's more of a actual scientist. The scientist possibly wants her son back, and she was also once with a cult, and it's possible that she wants Caillou back because he has no memory of all of this and stuff. And of course, we, as the books show, we was foreshadow of this situation. For starters, we know that the father was a huge cheater. And one thing that I just now noticed, and I'll admit this is just on the fly, but they're at a bowling alley, which matches up the dementia of the father. He does not remember what happened, but he does remember the bowling alley, which was where that whole thing it happened. And then, of course, the rest kind of goes fall apart. I won't spoil it, but let's just say all hell kind of breaks loose in kind of ways. To say at least, she actually does capture him, and again, you have to watch the entire thing. But the whole reason is not only because it's kind of spoilery and kind of crazy, so I don't want to give out too much spoilers, but also is basically just goes confirms that this is possibly a cult kind of thing, and many believe he's a messiah. That's what I'm getting at, and it kind of makes sense in some way. Again, there's a lot to dive in. Like I said, this is way more confusing than the next one we'll talk about, which is the Max and Ruby one, which is totally easy. But still, you get my point that this guy is very much a genius at his craft. He literally made YouTube poop a art work, and that is insane. That is like he has to be awarded for that and stuff. So the next one is pretty straightforward. Like I said, the Max and Ruby one is pretty easy to go through, and believe it or not, this story is pretty good. I won't spoil it too much, but it's pretty much goes for what you expect, being that at the start we see the grandma has died after Ruby killed her, and we also see the flies in some way, and also get it free there. Um, yeah, there's not much else to say about. It's pretty straightforward with the story. For those who need a recap, in the Max and Ruby story, the story reveals that Max and Ruby, or rather Ruby in particular, is a psychopath. And apparently she's possibly trying or not trying, depending on how crazy she is, to revive her parents. But as we saw in the second episode, she also is the one who also killed her parents in a pretty graphic way that is crazy. Although I just noticed right here that there's a house on fire for some reason. Who knows? I think that's the grandma's house. I don't know. I just saw this right now. I haven't noticed that until now, but anyways, we do know that Ruby first killed off, well, other than the parents, she first killed off Louise, and of course she killed off, of course, the grandma. Meanwhile, it seems like Max is trying to fight it off all the way, but he also has a few problems because in the previous episode, he killed off that store clerk who gave him the red hot marshmallow squirters. So it's pretty clear that something is strangely happening. And we also notice that it's kind of like a matchup to what actually happens in the show, but they definitely seem to fight more often. However, towards the very end, and we actually bring this up, pretty much Max, I guess, did a accident here because he then jokingly, accidentally, without noticing, called FBI. Like, I won't spoil it because it's both hilarious and it's so funny. Like, I won't show it all the way here. But pretty much, obviously, he did not know that, and, kind of all heck kind of broke loose there. Sorry if that video broke down on what happened with the phone, but to quickly recap what I just said, if it did, Max accidentally called the police by accident without realizing, and I won't spoil it because it's super funny. Again, I recommend go see this person own videos. But the biggest thing here is, yeah, Ruby gets actually captured and she is going to jail. But as we all know, she's going to escape as well. I won't spoil the escape thing because it's super awesome, it's super crazy. It kind of shows the. It also just shows once again, like, I won't show it at all, but it shows once again that this guy can make something, like, again, it even rivals that of Glider, because Glider himself has done so as well, but it's pretty standard. Like, this is way more animated, you can tell and stuff. But one thing for sure that is important that I will show off, and I know it's kind of a big spoiler, but it's a very important detail that many have missed, to say the least. Yeah, that's crazy. To recap, if you didn't read there, it basically said that it's possible that Ruby conceived Max, as in she's her birth mother. Um, yeah, okay, that's a very interesting twist. I don't know how to feel about that one, but okay, that's a very interesting twist. I don't know why I brought that up yet, but hey, that's fair. But yeah, apparently this connects to a little bit of Max's psychotic thing, but I don't know if it was just a random dream or something that he did not know. However, one thing I will say is, unlike the previous one with the Caillou, this story I actually can explain even without it being finished. This is because all of this is based off the previous theory involving the Killing Show. Now, for those who do not know, and I will actually say that it's actually been confirmed not to be true. But at a time, many people do not know where Max and Ruby's parents were. Some thought they died, as you saw in that YouTube video, which clearly, obviously, the creator knew that's not the case. Some questioned where they were at, but long story short, the main point was many people thought they were dead. Lo and behold, the recent seasons of Max Ruby, which by the way, I have no idea how the fuck they actually continue that series because that's kind of been a very old running series then. You're more old than me because I used to watch this thing. Turns out their parents weren't dead, and even crazier, recently they just added a baby to the family. So there's now 3 children's of the siblings bunnies. It's kind of weird, but yes, in fact, there is in fact now confirmed that Max and Ruby parents are indeed actually alive. And it's a kind of long story. They said they did it because Ruby was old enough, which begs the question: how old is Ruby in the actual series? But reason why I'm bringing all this up is not only do I think this is a pretty cool reference to the whole conspiracy theory of they're dead, but because we do have actual screen time now of the parents, I wonder if, in a way, Rent Cycle will use that to quote unquote show Ruby bringing their dead parents back up, because it has been a theory, like, to the point where there is a reference to the creepypasta Max Ruby 0004, if I'm correct with the naming of that, where one of the deaths of the parents and one of Max was through hanging, which is actually what happened in the second episode when we see what happened, how Ruby killed her parents. Yeah, this gets very dark, very thing. But like I said, this guy is like a king. Like he somehow was able to make a YouTube poop a ARG. You can't fuck again fuck that up. That is literally a very solid thing he did. You can't make this up, and he really did. He really did, and it's the reason why I deeply praise him. And again, all the more reason why I'm very apologetic and feel bad that I haven't done this in a while because I don't know how long these series, like it does take a while, obviously, for when it comes to YouTube poops, unless you just have to fire through it. But the dedication this guy does is absolutely insane, but also brilliant and awesome, and I support it every way.